The golden key twisted silently in your hand as you push open the heavy door to the ground bedroom you were now supposed to share with him. The room smelled faintly of the sandalwood and something colder like the absence of the warmth itself. A messy bedroom stood in the center, untouched, the script sheet perfectly tucked as if mocking you, but what caught your eyes was the suitcase near the leather couch. This thing, not on the bed, on the couch. You heard it before you saw him, the sound of expensive shoes across the marble floor. When you looked up, Tim was already there, shrugging off his bag suit jacket, his expression carried from stone. His gaze flickered to you, once sharp, unreadable, and then back to the buttons of the coffee, which he unfested with a slow, deliberate movement. Neither of you spoke. The silence stretched like a wall between you, tight and dangerous. Finally broke it, his voice low and smooth, but colder than any winter you had ever known. There is no need to pretend. I will stay out of your way. You stay out of mine. You nodded sleepily, your finger tightened around the door frame behind you. You hadn't accepted love. You hadn't even accepted kindness, but the way he looked through you like you were just a furniture taking up the space, it still stung more than you wanted to admit. I will move my things to the guest room, you said quietly, needing to escape his suffocating indifference. Then jaw tightened almost imperfectly. No, he said after a pause. We keep appearance. My family expects us to act married. His words landed like a stone in your chest as act pretend as endless theater performance for a people who didn't care whether you blend behind the curtain. He moved on the couch, throwing a spray blanket over the cushion without a second glance at you, as if the matter was settled, as if you were nothing but another business deal signed and filed away. You stood there, rooted to the floor, feeling the bitter taste of humiliation rise in your throat. Good night, Mrs. King, he said quickly, putting the blanket over himself and turning his back to you. Mrs. Kim, a title with no love behind it, only duty, only chains. You walked toward the balcony, needed air, the city light stretched endless before you, gathering like 1,000 unreadable dreams. Wrapping your arms around yourself, you whispered into the night, "Good night, Mr. Kim," but he was already asleep or pretending to be, and you were lonelier than you had ever been in your entire life. The next morning, sunlight blazed through the tall window, pulling over the polished floor on the mansion like molten gold. You woke up alone. The makeshift bed on the couch was empty, neatly folded, blanket untouched below. Your chest tightened. You hadn't realized how much you hoped stupidly that maybe, just maybe, things would feel different after the night under same roof. You spilled into a simple dress and made your way to the massive dining hall. Your step emerged through the camera's side. Taeyong was already there, sitting at the far end of the long mahogany table, flicking through his phone like you didn't exist. A line untouched breakfast terraces straight between your fancy plate, golden cutlery, steaming of a coffee, all laid out like a feast for a stranger. You sat down quickly, your appetite gone, the butter bowl and left, closing the door behind him with a soft click. You hated this heavy silence, the loneliness sharper, the candle's scary glass. You don't have to pretend, Taeyong said without looking up, his voice cold, almost tired. Eat if you want or leave, I don't care. Your hand trembled silently around the fork. You hadn't asked for this life. You hadn't chased for his money. You wasn't the villain. He clearly believed you were. Something inside you, something soft and breaking, finally you gave away. I am not pretending, you said quietly, surprising even yourself. Taeyong's finger froze over his phone screen. You pushed your chair back and stood, the leg tapping sharply against the floor. I am trying, you whispered, your throat tightened, but I guess that doesn't matter to you. You turn your heel, blinking back, the strain in your eyes, feeling yourself to make it out of the room before the tear falls. But you didn't get far. Your vision blurred, your knees buckled, the room tittled dangerously. You bravely resisted the worst sound of the chair trapping backward, and a strong arm catched you mid-fall. Mine, his voice for the first time kept raw, urgent. You felt yourself lifted, pressed against a hard, warm chest. Smell faintly, sandalwood, and something deeper, something real. He carried you back to the couch, crushing under his breath, brushing hair from your face, trembling finger. Wine looked at me, he said, his voice low and panicked. Your lashes flickered weakly. You wasn't used to be held like this, not with the care, not with the urgency. It's burned more than the tear now sliding down your cheek. You tried to sit up, apologized to fix everything like you always did. But Taeyong's hand gently pressed against your shoulder, keeping you still. Stop, he whispered. You don't have to keep fighting alone. For a moment, the cold billionaire, everyone's fear was gone. Only a broken man remained, a man who didn't know how to care without hurting. You closed your eyes against the tenderness. You didn't know how to accept, and Taeyong, for the first time, he didn't let go. You didn't know how long Taeyong stayed by your side after you fainted, but when you finally woke up in the bed, a soft blanket tugged around you, the scent of him still lingering faintly in the air. He was gone again like a ghost, there and then not. They passed the same cold dance, silent meal, careful glance, distance stretched between you an invisible wall, but sometimes you catch him watching you when he thought you wasn't looking, something unreadable flashing his eyes, a fracture in the mirror. Then came a family gathering. You stood in front of grand mirror, smoothing down your iron dress with a trembling hand. The Kim family was demanded your presence. You were new bride after all, a title of you wore like a slacker. Taeyong appeared behind you, adjusting his glove of his back suit. He looked devastated, cold and sharp. He had been carved from winter itself. Your eyes met in the mirror for a second. Something small softened his gaze almost. Stay close, he said simply, his voice low, and then he offered his arms. You stared at it, settled. You hadn't touched him since the day you signed your life away. Hesitated only for a breath. You slip your hand through the crook of his elbow. He snipped, you snipped, but neither of you let go. The King family's red buzz in the whispered conversation, clicking glasses, all designer gown, diamond smile, eyes slant through you like a knife. You felt a stare judgment the way he looked at you, the dirt on the velvet shoes. At first you tried to ignore it, tried to be invisible, but when things turned, lean in closer, his voice dripping with a fake sweetness, you knew you couldn't run forever. Such a shame. She furred, loud enough for everyone around to hear her, muttering dramatically that you hadn't had to marry this for a baby, no less. How unfortunate. The word hit harder than a slap. Your cheek burned, your heart twitched. You opened your mouth to apologize, to excuse yourself, to escape, but your hand suddenly tightened over yours. For the first time since your marriage, he spoke for you enough. He said, his voice was through the room like a blade, cold, dangerous. Everyone froze, even you. He turned slightly, shading you with his body as if daring anyone else to speak. My wife is under my protection, he said, his voice, eyes burning into his aunt's settled face and the warmth more than the everyone sliding into this room. Silence clashed over the gathering soup like earthquake through the wall. You blinked up at his breathless and your heart pounding with the painful. Your lips didn't look at you, didn't soften. He smilingly kept your hand, gripping his like a no-spoken promise carved into his stone. Without another word, he pulled you away, leaving the stern numbers behind you. Follow blindly, feeling like you were floating outside your body. It wasn't love, not yet, maybe not ever. But it was the first crack, this moment where you wasn't completely alone, and somehow it broke you more than cuddly ever could. After the family gathering, something shifted. He didn't speak about what happened, he didn't apologize, he didn't explain, but he stayed close. But he stayed close, silence, protective, watching you with intensity you didn't dare to meet. Too long you wonder if maybe he hated the way he defended you or hated you to needed it. You try to stay out of his way. After that night, burning yourself in the book, walked through the endless hall of mansion. Anything to forget where your heart shattered. He called you my wife, it meant it. One evening you fell asleep on the couch you hadn't made for. You wasn't tired lately, physically, emotionally. The soft warmth of the fire lumined into your dreams. When you woke up briefly, the world burned, room dim. You felt something brush your face, whisper of warmth through your lashes. You saw him. Standing nearly beside you, hair fell into his eyes as he carefully wrapped blanket over your body, his finger lingering almost your cheek for a moment. He thought you were asleep. He thought you wouldn't know. Don't cry anymore, he whispered so low you barely heard it. You are not alone, not anymore. You wanted to reach for him. You wanted to tell him you heard, that you understood, that you wasn't the enemy he was taught to hate. But you stayed still, your heart hammering against your ribs. Because you knew the wall he built around himself were still. The tendons was something he didn't want you to see it. It was a secret, a fragile, precious thing that you wouldn't protect it. Next morning, you find a small basket tray outside your door. Simply food, your favorite kind. No note, but you didn't need one. You smile for the first time in days. Somewhere inside the cold, broken house, that was a man learning fighting to care, and somewhere inside your own battered heart, you were beginning to hope. Maybe you wasn't alone as you thought. The storm came without warning. Dark clouds shadowed the sky, and rain hummed against the old windows of the mansion. Thunder rolled through the hall, deep and furious, reading the silence. You had gone to use it. You had a storm always had. There remained you too much. How fragile everything would be. Easily the world could rip apart. When you at least accepted, you sat coloring the far corner of the library, hugging your knees to your chest, trying to breathe through the panic. The storm inside you were worse than the one inside. You didn't hear him enter. You didn't realize Tim had found you until you felt the weight of the presence in the room. He said nothing at first, just stood there watching you tremble. You accepted him to leave. He always did, but this time he stayed. Slowly then crossed the room and crouched in front of you. Rain settled violently against the window behind him, but his voice finally spoke. Was the soft, raw thing. Are you scared? You squeeze your eyes shut, ashamed of the tear gathering there. I'm fine, you whispered, lying on the bed. Said that it's hurt. For a long moment he said nothing. Then you felt it hesitate, tremble, touch as he reached out to gently place your arms around your knees, one holding for a more. You didn't resist, you couldn't. Tim settled beside you on the floor, his shoulder brushing your warmth, seeping into your frozen skin. You stared at the shrinking fairy light, too afraid to move. I hated a storm too, he said suddenly, his voice rough like it has been dragging over the glass. When I was young, after my mother died. He turned off the unspoken word, thinking at the air between you. You turn your head slowly, your heart breaking at the distance. Haunt looked in his eyes. You breathed, not even sure what you wanted to say. But he shook his head, silence in you. Don't, he raps. Don't look at me like this. Like what? Like you see me. The confession hit you harder than any slap and cruel world you had endured the family, because deep down you realized Tim wasn't just cold, he was terrified of being seen, of being known, of being hurt again. The storm swimming against the mansion wall, and you barely heard it anymore. Slowly, gently, you reach out of the place, your hand over his entire body tense. For a second, you thought he might be pulled away. But he didn't. He let you stay, let you anger him. You sat there for a long time, two broken souls stitched together. Sheer silence, not lover, not yet, but something deeper was growing, something that even war storm couldn't tear apart. you.